Good evening, everybody. Everything new under the sun. It is January 2nd, 2022. And yes, I do have my 2022 predictions coming up, which will just be for interest's sake only, and I'll state that only. But this article that I want to take a look at is very important. We live in days of great deception. In fact, the Bible speaks about deception in the last days. And in fact, the first seal of Revelation 6 is a lot about deception. You can look at this chart. You can see the heptadic structure here. You've got the seven seals. And then at the seventh seal, when the seventh seal is broken, you break into the seven trumpets. And it goes on into the bowl judgments. The first seal is the white horse, deception. The second horse is war, red horse. The third is black horse, famine. And the fourth is the pale horse, pestilence. A quarter of mankind dies. So again, at the very bottom, you see that deception. Number one, deception. 2, war. 3, famine, pestilence. And then we'll head into the Great Tribulation in seal number 5 there. That Great Tribulation, that kicks off the wrath of God. The first part is a lot of it is the wrath of man, or the persecution of man on the planet as God is trying to wake people up. And what does man do? Man tries to be God. Man tries to implement his own solutions to fix what they see as the world problems. They look at everything and they say, this isn't the judgment of God. No, this is man-made, so that man has to fix it too. Meanwhile, it could very well be that it is judgment from God, i.e. The pestilences, the so-called climate change, disasters, other things coming, the calamities coming upon the world. They are the judgment of God for all the sin of the world, although the final judgment is not coming yet. But of course, man sees it and wants to fix it himself. So back to number one seal, deception. And do we see deception in the last days? I believe we do. And let me see. Let me go to this article here. This is Wikipedia. Robert W Malone. So you may ask, who is Robert Malone? Well, he is an American virologist. Again, this is Wikipedia. American virologist and immunologist. His work has focused on mRNA technology. Now, where do you know mRNA technology from? Well, of course, that's the current vaccine. That's the current latest high-tech thing that we have effectively to combat the vaccine, the latest high technology that they have. It goes on. So his work is focused on mRNA technology, pharmaceuticals, and drug repurposing research. During the pandemic, he has been criticized for promoting misinformation and safety about the COVID-19 vaccines. So this has been updated recently, but he is one of the founders of mRNA, one of the pioneers in the study of this. So if anybody is knowledgeable on how this works and whether it's good, bad, indifferent, etc., and the potential outcomes of it, it would be him. Of course, you note that we don't listen to good scientists and doctors anymore who have differing opinions. There's no discussion anymore in the media. What we listen to is, what we're forced to listen to is the government and the non-elected leaders who are saying, do this, do that. There's no open discussion about things. Okay, so another one. This is Robert Malone's website. rwmalonemd.com is the URL. Robert W. Malone, medical doctor. As the original inventor of mRNA and DNA vaccines, I am concerned about how the technology is being developed and implemented. Again, this pioneer, this leader, this doctor, this well-meaning doctor who is working on creating vaccines and obviously supports them if he's creating them and helping create them and discover them, he's coming out and saying, you know what, we need to slow down a little bit. And so this is the great, I think one of the great delusions in the last days, as people decided not to love truth, they accept a lie. And that's, of course, what happened in the Garden of Eden, right? Adam and Eve accepted a lie. Eve accepted that if they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they would become like God. And that was a lie. And all through the centuries, these lies have continued on, and people have accepted them. I'm just looking for a different slide here, and I can't find it. I always lose slides when I want to show them. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, that's not it. Let's see. Keynote. Yes, Keynote. Let's see. Yes, this was about the serpent. Deception. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. A little deception there, right? Sprinkled with a little bit of truth. Are they going to die immediately? No. Are they going to die spiritually? Yes. And that's exactly what happened. And then after that, they needed faith, and they needed the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And that's what that's a free gift to salvation that we all can receive. And those who choose it will live with God eternally. But there was a lie there. You will die spiritually. Physically, you may not die immediately, but eternally, you will die. So it goes on. For God doth know, or eternally, we are immortal. Souls are immortal. You will live in an eternity in hell if you don't accept the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ on the cross for our sins. But you won't die immediately, like I say, and that was a lie there. For God doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods. Now, what do people want to do? They want to fix everything. That's what they're trying to do in the world. That's what the Antichrist will come along and do. He'll say, "I'm going to fix everything." Again, Revelation 12:9 says, "And the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the world." Will there be deception in the last days? Will there be delusion? Absolutely there will. Satan is the author of most of it. And God does allow delusion to come upon the earth as well in the last days, because he has given people a choice. That's what our lifetimes are for, to choose God, or to choose to be with God in eternity, or to live apart from God in eternity. And that's really the choice. And we can go into what that means. But it effectively means if you're with God, there is love, there is light, there is goodness, there is joy. If you don't accept God, you can do that. You can live in eternity without God. And a lot of people choose that. But that means darkness, no light. That means hatred, no love. That means lack of joy. That means, you're not going to have friends and family around you. You're not going to be partying. There's not going to be any good thing apart from God. And that is the definition of hell. But Satan is the deceiver. So there's a great deception in the last days. And so again, the number one seal is deception. So if we really are to close to the 7-year period, and we really are in the last days, we would expect some big deception to come upon the planet, to get the whole world, all the countries of the world, moving in one direction, with one accord, if you will, just like the Tower of Babel, everybody working together to solve something. Hasn't the world in the last couple of years been trying to work together to solve climate change? Now, it hasn't really worked out so well. What has been the most successful worldwide collaboration to date? I think we would all agree it's the lockstep that occurred when all the countries of the world locked down because of medical emergency. Now, did you hear of any countries or governments or people saying, you know what, maybe this is because of our sin. Maybe this is the repercussion of our sin and God is judging us. Maybe we need to repent, call upon God, have a day of prayer. No, you didn't. You didn't see that. What you've seen is man saying, you know what, we're going to fix this. We're going to lock down everybody until we fix this. We are going to be our own gods. We're going to solve our own problems. Deception, the number one seal. You would expect an increase and significant deception in the last days. Back to Robert Malone, and this is a critical thing. So Robert Malone, the page says, I am an internationally recognized scientist, physician, and the original inventor of mRNA vaccination as a technology, DNA vaccination, and multiple non-viral DNA and RNA and mRNA platform delivery technologies. So he is on the bleeding edge of this. No one knows more about mRNA than he does. You talk about Fauci and Fauci saying, "I am science." I think one could argue that this Dr. Malone probably knows more than Fauci does, even when it comes to mRNA, because he has worked on it. He has pioneered a lot of the technology. I hold numerous fundamental domestic and foreign patents in the fields of gene delivery formulations, and vaccines, including for fundamental DNA and RNA vaccine technologies. I have approximately 100 scientific publications, 12,000 citations. I've been invited to speak at over 50 conferences, have chaired numerous conferences, and served as chairperson of HHS and DoD committees. I currently sit on a non-voting member on the NIH active committee, which is tasked with managing clinical research for a variety of drug and antibody treatments for COVID-19. Now he goes on, but let's talk about what I want to get to. This is a Zero Hedge article, and this is important. So Dr. Malone sat down with Joe Rogan. They did their podcast video. It was on YouTube, and you can see there the video is not available. So they didn't like what he was saying. Remember, this is the inventor, one of the inventors of mRNA delivery technologies, all the detail around it, the research around it. And they are silencing this guy not because he doesn't know what he's talking about, but because they don't like what he's saying. This is the problem. This is the deception. You can't speak anything anymore. You can't even give this guy the benefit of the doubt and have a reasonable conversation or roundtable about it. No, you just block him. He's been blocked off Twitter. mRNA inventor Robert Malone gave fascinating interview with Joe Rogan. Aired New Year's Eve. It's like a 3-hour long, and I'll put the link in the description here. You can find the videos, but they're suspended from Twitter, and now there's a video removed, I guess, from YouTube. There, Malone, an expert in mRNA technologies, trained at UC Davis, was suspended by Twitter with no explanation. It goes on. Malone discusses. So there's a bunch of. There's a bunch of YouTube clips here. I don't want to click on that. There's a bunch of different YouTube clips about various sections of what he's talking about. And I just want to go through them briefly. Again, you can go to this. You can listen to. It's a 3-hour discussion here. This is critical. And one person on Twitter likened it to, during World War II, trying to find out the real information over ham radio because mainstream sources were not providing real information anymore. So this is interesting. They spoke of being in a war at the beginning of this and all coming together to work in that war. And now the question is, what war are we in? Are we in Germany now? Are there some rebels who are fighting this? Very few. So it's interesting to think about, right? And there's a great deception happening, and I think you would have to agree at this time that there's a great deception. So Malone discusses his suspension by both LinkedIn and Twitter for the crime of promoting vaccine hesitancy. He argues that if the risks are not discussed, informed consent is not possible. That's just one of the items he talked about. Informed consent is not only not happening, it's being actively blocked. Let's see. Suspension came after Malone was vilified by a hit piece in The Atlantic, which was funded by Facebook and Johnson & Johnson. So there's big money going after this guy. They don't want anything bad said about any vaccine, whether or not it's true. Why don't they just come out with the research and say, here's all the rebuttals to all your statements, here's why it's safe? No, they just put their money in, and they fund Facebook or Facebook and Johnson & Johnson fund The Atlantic to write this hit piece. It goes on. Let's see. Here's another one. Twitter. Uttar Pradesh. This is interesting. Malone then explained to Rogan how Uttar Pradesh province in India crushed COVID, and there's various countries that did. Look at Japan. Interesting thing happened when they started allowing the dispersal of ivermectin. They flatlined on their number of cases. Interesting. But again, Uttar Pradesh province in India crushed COVID with early treatment. That included that dirty word, the horse paste. However, he claims that Biden administration met with Modi, and a decision was made not to disclose the contents of the treatment. Again, this isn't in any weird, extraterrestrial believing person, fringe person. This is a co-inventor, a researcher, a well-known medical doctor and scientist on the leading edge of mRNA logic and theory and scientific discovery. And he is telling us some incredible things. So, I mean, I don't know how you get a more credible source than this guy, to be absolutely honest with you. But, no one believes him. How many people would you ask? They already accept the government line. They will not accept even the words straight from the mouth of the person who basically invented mRNA techniques. Incredible. He went deeper into the topic of ivermectin and early interventions general. According to Malone, there are good modeling studies that shows 500,000 excess deaths have happened in the U.S. Through the intentional blocking of early COVID treatment by the U.S. So 500,000 people potentially died because they didn't get access to therapies, including ivermectin. And other things that may have helped, that may have allowed people to have less severe reaction to the variants. Now, to be honest, I'm gonna be. It'll be interesting to know if this my video gets blocked just for covering this article. Dr. Malone offers his observation on what could be behind the targeting of physicians. Remember, no physicians can talk out about this without getting canceled. And if you do, people say, well, that physician obviously doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know science. And then you come out with the lead scientist in mRNA techniques and scientific discovery, and even he is being canceled across social media. There's a concerted effort to silence voices. Again, is there a great deception happening? I think this is the beginning of it, and many people are sucked in. Even in my family, they are sucked into the belief. These are people who have never been concerned about flu vaccines. I've never heard, get the flu vaccine. You're not a Christian if you don't get the flu vaccine, etc. And good Christians will get the flu vaccine. I never heard that. I'm over 40 years old. Never heard that in my life. All of a sudden, with this new vaccine, this is something special, something new about this vaccine, that all of a sudden you have to get it or you're not a Christian. And that language is coming out, and they're ostracizing people who are unvaxxed. They're unclean. They're like lepers being pushed outside the city. One day there will become a man, an antichrist, who will be allowed to be possessed by Satan. And he's going to bring in a mark, and he's not going to allow people to buy or sell unless you have that mark. Now, we're not there yet, but you can see the setup here. Already in various places, you're limited in buying and selling. So we're at the stage where we're being limited in buying and selling if we're not following the government guidelines there. I was talking to a friend about Canadian military, and he's got all the vaccines, and basically he joined the army, and not the army, but anyways, I'm gonna say army. He joined, and they're given the option to get all the vaccines. 7, 10, 12, whatever, however many vaccines there are for smallpox and tetanus and polio, and basically get caught up on their vaccination status. And of course, the Canadian government and the military want all their people to be vaccinated against as much as possible, so that they're all on the same level for status. But you can deny vaccines in the military. You can actually deny them if you don't want them. But there are many, and he got several needles for various things, and group shots for this and that and the other thing, and antibiotics and all sorts of things. But the one thing is, you can deny all or any one of the vaccines if you go into the military. The only one that you cannot deny is the COVID vaccine. Every other one prior to it, polio, smallpox, anthrax, etc., you can choose to not get those. You can sign on the dotted line and say, no, I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to accept that. And fine, you're still allowed to be in the military. But this COVID one, something different about this one. You are not allowed to reject this one specifically. It's fascinating to me. And that was directly out of the mouth of someone who just joined the military. So what is it new about this? Is there a great deception? Is God now allowing some of that great deception to come into play? The number one seal? I think we're very, very close to this seal being broken. And when it does, it will not be a minor deception. It will be great, great deception, and specifically delusion. In fact, where God will give them over to the delusion, where they will basically choose one way, and they will be fully involved. There will be no coming back from that delusion at that point in time. And I think we are very, very close to that. Malone and Rogan then got into some heavy science behind COVID, with Malone explaining how people with natural immunity are at higher risk of adverse events from the vaccine. So if you got COVID naturally, and then you get the vaccine shortly after, you could have some troubles, okay? So and science will support that, and if you follow Dr. John Campbell, he's said similar. There is a number of things here that are not supported by science. And then they then discuss the case of a 14-year-old girl who was injured by it, yet the incident was reported as a stomach ache. So there's consistent and direct, really denial. If you get the vaccine and you go into a hospital and say, you know what, I think this might have been from the vaccine, they won't listen to you. They won't accept it. They're not going to listen to you and say, okay, well, you could be true, or it may be something else. They will just flat not accept it, and they will say, no, that's impossible. That's not the case. It has to be something else. It's incredible. It's just like their eyes. There's wool over their eyes. They don't have the option in their minds to say anything other. And to me, it sounds like the creation evolution debate, where people just will reject anything you tell them, no matter what. They say, no, that's impossible. Evolution is true, creation is false. They won't accept any evidence to the contrary, and so that's a great deception. That's a great delusion. I believe in that area as well. It goes on, and we'll finish this off. Towards the end of the interview, Malone gets even deeper, suggesting that people are living through a mass formation psychosis. Look at this. Dr. Malone, this educated great scientist who invented, effectively, mRNA and pioneered all of the technology for delivery, etc. He is not crazy. He is coming out and saying, he is suggesting that people are living through mass formation psychosis. And he's drawing parallels from 1920s, 1930s Germany, where they had a very highly intelligent, highly educated population, and they went barking mad, he said. Twitter doesn't think Malone's voice deserves to be heard, is the last sentence there. Mass psychosis. What does the Bible say that's going to happen in the last days? Well, it says there's going to be deception. That's going to be the hallmark of the breaking of the first seal. Great, significant deception. And I don't think we're even there yet. I think we're in the run-up, the lead-up. I think this is all conditioning. This is all the birth pains increasing in frequency and intensity. This is the soft start, if you will, to a 7-year period where there will be shock and awe related to the deception. When the first seal breaks, you and I, Christians who are watching this, you're going to say, what in the world is going on? Everybody is absolutely insane. And there will be no intelligent discussion, conversation, disagreement. It will be all or nothing, and you will accept or you will be ostracized. You will be left out of society, even to the point where you may be, you'll be persecuted, but your life, in fact, may end in various manners due to the denial and the rejection of the Great Deception. And people won't know any better. They're going to be 100% deluded. And I do see this coming to pass. Now, I'm being very careful when I say I'm seeing this, but I think, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've been very careful to kind of follow a lot of things. I don't follow alien invasion things and all these other stories that other Bible prophecy teachers talk about. I stay fairly middle of the road, things that are fairly common knowledge and well known. And we're getting into the realm where I think we're starting to see the deception of the first seal. Again, when this first seal is broken, I think there's going to be great deception. I just think we're seeing deception right now. And it's deception that we've never seen before. Before 2019, 2020, had you ever seen such subterfuge, such deception on a worldwide scale? So Satan's working around the world. All the countries are in lockstep together. They're agreeing together. They're doing all the same things for the most part. Maybe to different levels a little bit. But for the most part, they're generally doing all the same thing. And generally the line is the same, except for, say, a few countries. The only option is to get the jab. There are no other feasible options. Don't get healthy. Don't worry about getting healthy. Don't worry about taking vitamins. Don't worry about increasing your lung capacity. Don't worry about losing some weight, etc. Just get the jab, and everything's going to be awesome. And boy, the great deception, I think, is occurring before eyes, and I don't even think we're in the thick of it yet. I don't believe the 7-year period has started. I believe we're months away from the 7-year period, but the deception is starting now. Why? Why is the deception starting now? Because the deception needs to be in place. When the Antichrist comes in, he's going to be able to gain control of the world. So there needs to be a groundwork laid of deception to where this Antichrist figure can come in and say, okay, now that you're all following lockstep, the whole world is finally working together towards something, and you don't have these rogue countries doing their own thing. Everybody's working together. Now we're going to implement a world currency, a world marking system, numbering system. And if you don't take it, we're going to get everybody on board. If you don't take it, then you're not going to be able to buy or sell. And that's exactly what we see written of in the Bible. The Bible tells us this beforehand so that we're not worried. But again, when you see that first seal is deception, you got to say, what are we seeing? What is one of the smartest guys as it relates to mRNA vaccines saying? And apparently he has some questions and concerns about this. This is an important video, and I don't know if this video is going to stay up for long, but Christians, Christ followers, eyes wide open as it comes to deception. Tread carefully. I'm not saying don't get vaccinated. On the contrary, it's a good tool. I don't believe there's anything inherently wrong with the current vaccine. But ultimately, what we're losing is freedom, the ability to choose, and also we've lost any sort of government control mechanism, because now they have an option. All they have to say is, "Oh, this is a countrywide or a worldwide health emergency. Now we can suspend all your rights and freedoms, all your Charter of Rights and Freedoms, your amendments and declarations, all these things. They can be suspended because we have this emergency." And the precedent's been set, and the deception is occurring. And this mass psychosis, I think, is a scary thing. Mass formation psychosis, where people are being deceived. They're not thinking for themselves. They're accepting what the media is telling them. And again, this is one thing you need to be prepared for, because persecution is going to come quickly. If you question any of this, not only will the government get you, but anybody who believes this will come against you very, very hard. Even in my family, people believe what they're being told by the government, because we grew up believing what the government said. But we're quickly moving into a time of deception. And I worry about these Christians who are not seeing this stuff. And many Christians do see it, even who have who've been vaccinated. They still do see the coercion and the government pressure. But if you're not seeing the government pressure and you're not worried about it, whether or not you take the vaccine, that's a side issue. If you're not worried about it, you need to be worried that you may be being deceived. And if you're being deceived about this, how easily will you be deceived when the Antichrist comes in and wants to put something on your right hand, in your right hand or in your forehead? Because how quickly will Christians fall and bow the knee when the government says, okay, this is a health emergency. If you don't take it, you're not a good Christian. If you don't do this, you don't love others. And how many will be guilted into it or just choose, not knowing their Bibles, not recognizing that, you know what, this is the one we need to say no to, and how many will fall away. And the Bible says at the end, it says, will Jesus find any faithful on the earth when he returns? And that's an open question. It's not answered, which suggests that there probably isn't going to be a lot faithful, a lot standing who rejected the mark, accepted Christ, or who are still left alive at that point in time. So incredible days. 2022 is just going to be, I think it's going to be more shakana. That's kind of my overall prediction. I think something will get worse. This may or may not be the end of the pandemic. It may be. I hope it is. But the next thing will come. And what is that thing? What is the great delusion that we're getting very, very close to? Is this the beginning of the delusion or the setup for that next great delusion coming upon mankind? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next video.